Mangix the Brewmaster is a big, fat guy. He's going to hit you with a cheap shot and make you go tipsy-turvy. The perfect candidate for a pub stomp, he'll make sure your opponents have a real unhappy hour. By utilizing his natural tankiness and slippery abilities, you'll ensure that the enemy team will always want to go for the chase. There may be 3 of him, but there's only one: History of Brewmaster. Brewmaster can do so much that he practically fills any role on the team. Whether you're looking for a hard carry, a tanky initiator, or a micromanagement simulator, the bear in the big brew house can do it all. Thunderclap is an AoE spell that deals magic damage and slows the movement speed and attack speed of all enemies hit in a moderate area around Brewmaster. Short and sweet, but it's usually the beginning of a bad time for an enemy, and the spell's description puts it best. A slam of Mangix's mighty keg starts the festivities. Cinderbrew douses an area with the good stuff, slowing down enemies and giving them a debuff that gives them a chance to attack themselves. If a unit receives a certain amount of spell damage, the brew will ignite, dealing damage over time for a short amount. Drunken Brawler is an active spell that buffs Brewmaster for a small period. This gives him a huge boost to critical chance and evasion, and while it's active, he'll move with varying movement speed, alternating between a bonus and a slow every second. It's a lot to take in, but in short, he'll be able to knock people out while dodging most attacks coming his way. Primal Split is Brewmaster's ultimate. This splits him into 3 controllable units known as Earth, Storm, and Fire, each with their own unique set of skills. That means we're only halfway through this because I have to explain each little bear now. Earth is the tanky bear with the most health. He comes with 2 passive abilities, the first one being Spell Immunity, which is like a permanent BKB, and Demolish, which deals extra damage to towers on auto attacks. Earth also has an active ability called Hurl Boulder, which damages and stuns a unit on a pretty low cooldown. Storm is a really tricky bear that can disrupt a fight like a monster. He comes with Dispel Magic, which affects a large area, damaging summoned units and purging most buffs and debuffs. Cyclone will keep a unit out of a fight by swirling them up with a tornado. This will pretty much delete an enemy of your choosing out of a team fight, taking out the problem child while you focus your efforts on mauling your prey. Finally, Storm has Windwalk, giving temporary invisibility, bonus movement speed, and bonus damage when attacking out of it. Fire is the DPS bear, equipped with maximum movement speed and the most attack damage. The only spell he comes with is Permanent Immolation, which is a passive aura that deals magic damage per second. For the most part, you'll want to use this to harass the poor little enemy support by right-clicking them with this bear, while the other 2 disrupt the fight. And there you have it. That's everything that Brewmaster does. Can you imagine having to explain this to your friends who are new to the game? Me neither. Just show them this video. My analytics could really use it. Brewmaster stumbled his way into Dota All-Stars on April 30th, 2004 on patch 5.10. He uses the Pandaren Brewmaster's model and title, and also borrowing heavily from the character. His original description explains that he is a warrior hero, exceptional at absorbing damage and melee combat. In patch 6.00, his description was updated as follows. A Pandaren with quicker than usual instincts, Mangix wields his oaken staff with great efficiency. He's one of the toughest heroes to kill, and he hits hard and fast. He doesn't even count his kills anymore. Oh yeah? Well, what's this then, smart guy? He would receive one more update in 6.39, with this one giving him much more of a filled out story in line with the other heroes in the game. He came from a hidden village in Pandaria, living a sheltered life. The Scourge had attacked his homeland, and the elders agreed to send a warrior to fight off the horde. Fortunately for them, Mangix had trained his whole life for that exact moment. I also think his voice lines are a thing of beauty. He has a dumb accent coupled with a jolly tone, and some pretty top-notch puns, making them really stick in your head as you're frantically clicking around the map.
Is trouble brewing? I'll give it a shot. This will be grisly. I bring pandemonium.
Most of Brew's original abilities come directly from the Warcraft hero. The only difference is, Breath of Fire was replaced by Thunderclap, which was taken from the Mountain King. His other spells included Drunken Haze, a single target ability that slows and applies a debuff that causes a unit to miss attacks, and Drunken Brawler, which simply gives Brew passive evasion and critical chance. Primal Split was also known by its original name, Storm, Earth, and Fire. While we're here, these spirits had all of their abilities kept intact from the Warcraft hero, so the Earth Panda had 2 more abilities. Taunt, an active spell that forces the 10 nearest units to focus on him, and instead of Demolish, he had Pulverize, which gives a percentage chance for attacks to splash in a small area. Kind of a side note, but Storm Spirit, Earth Spirit, and Ember Spirit all use these pandas as their respective models, which is just insanely confusing. In terms of balance changes, very little was done to alter the effects of Brewmaster's skills, so most of his changes basically tweak his numbers. It's hard to say exactly why this is the case. Maybe his basic abilities already meshed really well together, maybe his ultimate would have caused too many issues to change, but in any case, he was kept pretty consistent throughout the Dota 1 era. In 6.60, Storm, Earth, and Fire had a facelift, with permanent immolation on the Fire Panda receiving a buff, and the Earth Panda losing Taunt. This patch also granted Brewmaster his first Aghanim Scepter upgrade, increasing the duration and lowering the cooldown of Storm, Earth, and Fire, while all the spirits had a stat increase. It'll probably take some time to make some heads or tails of it, but it can be summed up as summoning 3 XXL big bulky Baja Blast Pandas. In 6.72, the Earth Panda started carrying Brewmaster's auras around him, legitimizing builds that involve Vladimir's Offering or Assault Cuirass. In 6.75, the Pandas are now all affected by Black Hole, a huge relief for Enigma players as the Pandas have several methods of dealing with channeling spells, what with the Stun and the Cyclone and the Death. The spirits now also cancel Smoke of Deceit if they come within range of it. You know, in case you accidentally misclick your ultimate and want to convince your team that you're a tactical genius, you could totally cancel a smoke if you wanted. The natural evolution of Brewmaster is the original Pandaren himself, Chen Stormstout in Heroes of the Storm. He surprisingly lines up pretty well with Mangix's original role of being a tanky, damage-dealing disruptor. Instead of mana, he uses Brew as a secondary resource, which he refills using his Fortifying Brew ability. In general, his main job is to get in the center of a fight with Flying Kick, taking advantage of his natural tankiness and shields, and causing havoc by using Keg Smash to slow enemies and cover them in Brew, then igniting them by using Breath of Fire. One of his heroic abilities is Storm, Earth, and Fire, which stays faithful to the Warcraft ability, splitting him into 3 spirits, although their abilities are really simplified. It's more accurate to say that using this ability grants Chen a second set of abilities rather than controlling 3 individual units, since they all follow your mouse clicks at the same time anyway. These skills are all actives and simply increase their movement speed, perform a leap and slow, and increase their attack speed. Just like his Warcraft incarnation, if all 3 spirits die, then Chen will die as well. Now, the idea of a Drunken Master isn't exactly all that unique, and these honorable mentions are going to more so highlight the theme of Brewmaster rather than his skill set. Gragas from League of Legends is exactly what you see, a big drunk holding a barrel, using alcohol as his primary tactic. Heroes of Newerth actually has 2 characters that channel the Brewmaster's soul in Pandemonium and Drunken Master. They are just a couple of martial artists, except one is a panda, and one is a spitting image of my uncle. Smite has Bacchus, the Roman god of wine, and his belly flop ability is pretty similar to the Blink and Thunderclap combo, where he jumps to a target area, deals damage, and slows any enemy caught in its path. Thank God I'm stopping there because I could definitely mention Brad Wong from Dead or Alive, Bo Rai Cho from Mortal Kombat, Shun Di from Virtua Fighter, Chin Gensai from King of Fighters, or Jackie Chun from the 21st World's Martial Arts Tournament. But I won't. Brewmaster brought a barrel of laughs to Dota 2 on April 19th, 2012, just a little bit after patch 6.74. In his first appearance, the grizzled veteran was modeled after a spectacled bear, which does resemble a giant panda, but it also looks like he's muttering something about you under his breath. Staying pretty faithful to the old Pandaren design, this look was a nice and refreshing update to his Warcraft cousin. Looking back at his concept art, it looks like they had a pretty solid idea of how they envisioned the character's fighting style. Although this 80s punk rock look seems like they could have taken the hero in a completely different direction. On the May 3rd, 2012 update, Brewmaster and all of his spirits received updated textures. They now resemble red pandas, which is a pretty clever solution if you ask me. Brewmaster's voice lines carry on the tradition that the Pandaren started, having an accent, puns about drinking, and a subtle slurring of his words.
I'll drink to that. Punch drunk. Who's hammered now, huh? Spirit, huh? Show me some proof. That's a pun.
Mangix's lore has a few decent callbacks to his Dota 1 story, while also adding a lot to his background. He comes from a sect known as the Order of the Oyo, deep in the Wailing Mountains, in a valley beneath a ruined city, similar to the Stone Talon Mountains, an obscured island in his old lore. He was born to a mortal mother, while his father was a Celestial, and he inherited the talents of both. Celestials, of course, are the same race that the 3 spirits are part of. His order practiced enlightenment through alcohol, and Mangix one day challenged the Elder Master for the title of Brewmaster. They fought for 9 days, and Mangix emerged the victor. He left the order to wander the world in order to achieve enlightenment, hoping that he will be the one to unite the spirit and physical plane together. Although Brew does seem pretty attuned with his fighting style, it does backfire a little bit, as the description for Primal Split tells us, that it isn't clear whether Mangix is consciously aware of his potent bond with nature, as it occurs in the midst of a drunken stupor. To dive deeper into his character, Brewmaster has a few items that shed light on his homeland. The Flail of the Great Elder item is the prize that comes along with winning the title of Brewmaster. There's also a few items that reference dragons, starting with the Red Dragon set, the Traveler's Jug, which is made of a reconstituted dragon-hardened shell, and the Elixir of Dragon's Breath, which is essentially wine made from dragon's blood. More than likely, these are just a string of coincidences, but it's curious to see that so many items revolve around that theme. There's also a series of couriers based on Brewmaster and his race. Red Paw and Blue Paw are a pair of red pandas from the Wailing Mountains, and although they are cute, they don't really add to the overall scheme of things, but you can pick one up in plush form if you're a fan. The real legend here is Coco the Courageous, who seems to be a more grown-up version of the other couriers. He works at the Red Paw Brewery, and it's his sole purpose to deliver drinks to the heroes around the battlefield. As stated in the description, the call for brew is sacred, and by oath, it must be upheld. God bless you, Coco. Brew's relationship to the other heroes revolve primarily around two groups, the Spirits and the Drinking Buddies. Being part of the same race, Brewmaster's acknowledgement of the Spirits is to be expected. Based on the various lines, Brewmaster has a friendly relationship with Storm Spirit, referring to him as cousin. He has a lot of respect for Ember Spirit, and Earth Spirit has a condescending attitude towards him regarding the copious amounts of drinking.
Our ancestors welcome you home, cousin. Your ember may burn out, but your spirit returns to our ancestors.
Brewmaster, try to stay sober, would you?
On the flip side, he has a more casual friendship with Bristleback, Tusk, and Monkey King, all of whom talk about getting blasted with him after the fight. He's also seen in a tavern sharing a drink with Kunkka in the Sundered Moon comic.
I'll split that keg with you when we're through.
Find me after the battle, Brewmaster. The second round is on me.
Brewmaster, after we kill their ancient, we are getting loaded.
Brewmaster's changes were pretty tame since being ported to Dota 2, but his recent patches altered his gameplay heavily. In 6.79, Drunken Haze now affects a 200 radius around the target, and his Aghanim's upgrade was reworked. It no longer provides stat bonuses, increased duration, or reduced cooldown, and instead gives each spirit one of his basic abilities. This was one of those changes that made the hero less brain dead overall, but the utility wasn't nearly as useful as the old stats. In 6.81, Drunken Brawler would guarantee a crit if Brewmaster did not attack in the last 10 seconds, and it also guarantees an evasion if he was not attacked in the last 10 seconds. This changed up his gameplay a little bit, making him retreat every now and again during the laning phase to ensure a critical strike for maximum harassing potential. In 6.84, the Primal Split spirits no longer granted gold or experience upon dying, so you could all in without the worry of feeding your opponents. In 6.87, all of the spirits had their damage types changed to hero, meaning that they basically dealt more damage to heroes, which is usually their primary target anyway. Additionally, the Earth Panda's Pulverize skill was replaced with Demolish, arguably a better use of his talents. In 7.00, Drunken Haze had a lot of tweaking done to it. Most notably, it now uses a projectile instead of applying instantly to its target. It also lost its 200 AoE radius, and a lot of the numbers were rescaled, most notably cutting the duration in half. Having its effect active for 8 seconds was a bit excessive, so this rescaling fixed a lot of the grief from the laning stages against Brew. Overall, his talents played it on the safe side, where you could either go for more survivability or damage. In 7.02, the Fire Panda gained phasing movement, allowing him to immediately latch onto his target without the worry of bumping into everyone. In 7.07, the Brewmaster's talents were reworked. One path maximized his potential as a right-clicker, while the other side increased his ultimate's potency. The extra health to his Primal Split units combined with the reduced cooldown made Brewmaster absolutely unkillable and a nightmare to fight against. You essentially have a trio of units with at least 3000 health, and most likely aided by the Assault Cuirass aura. On top of this, if you get the cooldown reduction talent and an Octarine core, you're looking at a 26.25 second cooldown, while the ultimate itself lasts for 20 seconds, which means it has a 76% uptime. The numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for you. In 7.20, Drunken Haze and Drunken Brawler were reworked. Drunken Brawler was already explained earlier, but Cinderbrew could be ignited using a fire spell, dealing damage over time, and refreshing the duration. The list of fire spells also raised a few questions, like Axe's Battle Hunger is apparently made of fire, but Radiance's burn damage and Sunstrike weren't included at all. Cinderbrew was updated to its most current form in patch 7.20c, only 5 days later. There's no official statement for this reasoning, but it was likely done to avoid confusing interactions in the future, and to avoid forcing certain team compositions or lane setups. Kind of a shame. League of Legends can have Xayah and Rakan, but Dota 2 can't have Brewmaster and Ogre Magi in a passionate embrace? Brewmaster is a stupid drunken mess, and maybe that's why I resonate with him so much. By utilizing the power of his thick curves, he'll leave everyone battered, bruised, and boozed. I would love to have a pun here, but I used them all up throughout the episode. I'm Dennis the Tall, and that was the history of Brewmaster. Can I just give a big fat hug to God? He was the first to join my $20 tier on Patreon, so here's his avatar hanging out with his favorite hero. That's right, he got to choose this episode. It can't be stated enough how much I appreciate anyone who supports this channel, and this contributes to my goal of putting out videos on a more regular basis. In the History of Lich video, I asked, what are you most grateful for in Dota? Not that it matters, because we were all crying about how Lich was changed days before I released the episode. I think Ashutosh Ramal said it better than I ever could. Feels awkward to carry clarity on Lich. GG. That's all I've got for now. Follow me on Twitter, help me out on Patreon, and click all the doodads on the screen. Peace.